Welcome to International Vulture Awareness Day. Here at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, we happily celebrate all of our scavengers and all the ecological services they provide humankind throughout the globe. Of our 23 vulture species found throughout the world, 14 are endangered or critically endangered, and most of those declines have occurred only in the last 25 years. Here at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, our community of international trainees and collaborators allows us to actively research populations of vultures from across the world. We're very excited to be working with cinereous vultures as well as hooded vultures in the Old World and our New World vulture species, many of which are doing phenomenally well. International Vulture Awareness Day, a day focused on those scavengers that help us by cleaning up refuse, saving millions of dollars across the globe in ecological services. Scavengers provide untold number of beneficial uses to our ecosystems that most people don't even realize beyond seeing them working on roadkill. Here at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, we're very lucky to celebrate our local New World vulture populations that seem to be doing very well per road surveys that we've performed through collaborators from across their range. The best time to study a species is while it is still common, because if you try to fully understand and appreciate all of the ecological influences that impact a decline, you're playing a losing battle if that species is in free fall. Fortunately, we saw this with Old World vulture populations, where the majority of them are either endangered or critically threatened due to a host of issues often associated with human impacts. Being a scavenger, they are exposed to a lot of toxins that build up in carcasses, so their potential exposure or risk rate for endangerment is higher than your average bird species. So it is important to give a leg up to these scavenging species that are relying and paying attention to human refuse for meals and maintaining their local flock populations. So you need to pay attention to what the local scavenging community is doing in your neck of the woods so that we can effectively protect them moving forward. To do this, Hawk Mountain Sanctuary is fortunate to partner with a lot of collaborators and former trainees to study both Old and New World vulture populations. We are currently focused on the Gambia with hooded vultures, where they've seen a over 50% population decline, and we don't really understand how these species are using the ecosystem at their disposal. So where are the threats coming from that are driving these large population declines? Understanding this for a species that is currently declining is important, but it's also very important to understand that for a species that might be increasing. So what are the drivers that cause these population increases or decreases are important when you're coming up with an ecological approach to conserving a species. With our New World vulture populations, we're currently seeing an expansion in the East Coast for black vultures, and to study this, we're currently deploying transmitters on northern population birds to see how they're moving in comparison to both our local Pennsylvania flocks as well as black vultures in South America. By looking at differences in how the different regions' populations are moving and engaging with their environment, we will be able to make predictors and conservation steps to managing these populations and making sure that a species that gets along so well with humans and feeding off of human refuse doesn't go into a decline through exposure to toxins or persecution because they are very comfortable hanging out in your backyard because we've built excellent vulture playgrounds there. We're lucky here at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary to have two species of New World vulture, the turkey vulture and the black vulture. Black vulture being the most numerous vulture in the world, with a range spreading from the tip of South America up through North America, and they're currently expanding their northern range on the East Coast primarily, where they've gotten all the way up to the border with Canada now. This rapid range expansion that we're seeing seems to be tied in with their ability to economize on human activity and development. our other species, the turkey vulture, it has the most widespread range in the New World, ranging from southern Canada into southern Alaska, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego in Argentina, and there's even a population has found its way across to the Falkland Islands. Turkey vultures, who have a strong sense of smell, use that to advantageously forage for carrion and other scraps, both in a woodland setting where you can't see the ground, as well as open territory. They can follow their nose into a carcass to feed. Black vultures, which do not have a strong sense of smell, will typically forage for food at a higher altitude than a turkey vulture, which allows them to actually keep track of not only any potential carcasses down below them, but all the foraging turkey vultures that might be smelling a carcass. So they can actually take advantage of the turkey vulture's nose by using them to indicate where carrion is. Because of this, all vultures have a strong information sharing capability that is often expressed in communal roost sites, or in the old world can be colonial roost sites, where they'll actually nest as a group. So they're relying on each other as a community of scavengers to find carcasses so that they can all get a meal. So they're taking advantage of that. We take advantage of them through them cleaning up roadkill as well as other refuse. So having a strong vulture population in your area is definitely providing unintentional benefits primarily to us, but our noses definitely appreciate that. Vulture migration and movement is a very varied topic, even within species. So something like our turkey vulture, we actually have multiple sub-races throughout their range. Here in North America, on the East Coast, we have the septentrionalis turkey vultures, and they are typically a partial migrant. So from our transmitter data, we found out that about half the birds chose not to leave their home range in the wintertime. They continue to persist and find food, whereas others would migrate to a southern region for the wintertime. Whereas something like our West Coast Meridionalis species that are nesting up in Canada, they're an obligate migrant. So that entire population is getting up and moving down to Venezuela primarily for the wintertime. So they're all vacating their summer range and finding a new wintering area. We are currently deploying transmitters as well in Arizona, and that population again is looking like not an obligate migrant, but an opportunistic. So portion of the population will get up and move south into Central America for the winter, whereas some birds might persist throughout the winter there. In Argentina, some of our transmitter turkey vultures will migrate north in the austral winter and spend time in Brazil. So how these populations fluctuate throughout their range is important to highlight and is different depending on which subrace you're actually interacting with. Black vultures are typically considered non-migratory in most of their ranges, and yet we're seeing this range expansion on the east coast here, where the northern birds appear to be migrating at least for a portion of the winter. So they might not leave an area unless the winter weather gets very bad. They'll move a little bit further south where they can thermoregulate better, and then quickly move back once that weather event passes. Or at the northern extremes, they seem to be mostly migratory, moving a couple hundred miles south. So our aim is to put transmitters on those birds because the hawk watches are seeing migrating black vultures. We want to understand what portion of that population is actively migrating versus choosing to spend the entire year in a tight home range area. This is our next discovery and aim with the expansion. We're hoping to get more transmitters out and be able to understand a little more about what makes black vulture tick. The first goal with any species is to protect it while it is still common, and we're aiming to do that through expanding our transmitted tracked vultures, as well as putting out patagial tags. So if you engage or encounter with your local vulture roost in your community and notice one of our tags, please report it, and we look forward to learning more about the population in your neighborhood as well as from across the globe.